We begin today with the developing situation in Ukraine. Good afternoon. I'm Mary Calvi.
And I'm Chris Rangi, now on CBS 2 and streaming on CBS News New York. Let's begin at noon here. A rapidly worsening situation in Ukraine. Kyiv is under attack.
Russia's military invades the Ukrainian capital and continues to advance across the sovereign nation. We have team coverage this afternoon. Jenna DeAngelis is live with how local Ukrainian Americans are showing solidarity and support. But we begin with CBS News' Jessica Moore in the newsroom with the latest on the invasion and Ukraine's efforts to fight back. Jessica.
Mary and Chris, the Russian military continues to advance across Ukraine in what Putin alleges is his effort to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. Ukrainians are dying and wounded, trying to come to terms with the war on their homeland. Explosions lit up the city skyline overnight as missiles and rockets rained down on the capital of Kyiv. This gutted apartment building stands as a reminder of Russia's indiscriminate assault on residential neighborhoods.
My mother's screaming, wake up, wake up. I'm waking, in the dust, screaming.
The death toll is rising in Ukraine. President Zelensky says 137 of his people are dead and hundreds more wounded in bombings across the country. Zelensky says he and his young family are Putin's top targets. In Kharkiv, men, women, and children take cover from Russian airstrikes inside this subway station. Others spent the night in bomb shelters, like this little girl who says she woke up because of the big boom. I knew it was the war, she says through tears. As thousands of Ukrainian refugees flee to Poland, the Ukrainian government has banned men between 18 and 60 from leaving the country, arming them instead with rifles and AK-47s to prepare for battle. Fury over Russia's invasion continues worldwide. Thousands of Russian citizens took to the streets last night protesting the war. Many were arrested for their demonstrations. President Biden slapped Russia with a sweeping round of new sanctions yesterday, including targeting 5 major Russian banks, cutting them off from the U.S. financial system, and halting all high-tech exports to Russia, including computer chips that are critical to its military and aerospace industries.
Putin chose this war, and now he and his country will bear the consequences.
Leaders around the world announced similar steps.
He will never be able to cleanse the blood of Ukraine from his hands.
In an emotional interview with CBS News, a member of Ukraine's parliament urged the world to cut Russia off from SWIFT, a global payment system crucial to international trade.
Russia from SWIFT, I beg you, please save our people. Another dozen of people, and maybe hundreds of people, might be murdered tonight.
The issue with SWIFT is that right now some European allies who rely on Russia for oil and gas aren't ready to take that step of removing Russia, but President Biden says they will all reassess in about a month. Right now, the fear in Ukraine is with Russian troops advancing fast, that country could soon be faced with a ground war. Live in the newsroom, Jessica Moore, CBS 2 News.
Congratulations.
I'm gonna keep on loving you. 'Cause
Also, President Putin has vowed to retaliate against any nation that responds to his invasion of Ukraine.
Cybersecurity experts say the U.S. has been fighting off Russian cyber attacks for years, and there's concern they could now escalate because of the sanctions. CBS 8's Monica Peters shows us what researchers are saying about our nation's security.
Though this invasion is being fought on the other side of the world, the ripple effect it could have on the security of other countries, including the United States, is being discussed by scholars and experts from around the U.S.
We, the United States, should of course take cybersecurity seriously. Russia is a very capable cyber actor, but it is far better to be prepared than combat.
Just as Russia began its military attack on Ukraine Thursday, another attack on the country was also underway. Ukrainian government websites and related organizations were disrupted by data-wiping malware, infecting hundreds of computers. Ukrainian officials are blaming Russia, and now people are wondering if a similar cyber attack could happen in the United States.
We've already seen a lot of attacks, and we have a lot of corporations and government agencies working on those things, preparing for them, preparing to counter them, even preparing some responses.
Ukrainian government websites were temporarily entirely offline and access to the internet was sporadic. The malware attack in Ukraine made websites unavailable by flooding them with junk data. Reports say major Russian websites were also under attack, possibly in retaliation from the Ukrainians.
I think it is reasonable for the United States to expect to continue to see the types of intelligence gathering we've seen from Russia before, the likes of solar winds. We should, of course, be very worried about unintended blowback.
Griffin says being targeted and being affected by a cyber attack are very different. She believes it's not productive for the U.S. to assume that at some point Russia will try to cripple U.S. power grids. Instead, Griffin says the U.S. should try and understand the real purpose behind the cyber attacks.
The question lurking behind any Russian decision to carry out those types of cyber attacks against the United States in this context is whether Russia's goal is to keep us largely out of this conflict or deliberately draw us in.
Reuters is reporting that Ukrainian officials are now asking its own underground hackers to help protect the country from Russian cyber attacks.
With lines of cars stretching for miles, many Ukrainians are fleeing Russia's invasion on foot instead, carrying bags, wheeling suitcases, shepherding their children. Mariana's husband stayed behind. All men must fight for the country, she says, for peace, to prevent attacks, for everything to be all right. Ukraine has restricted border access for men aged 18 to 60 in case they're needed to fight. Nearly 11,000 people have already crossed into Romania. Thousands more have gone to Poland and to Hungary.
So I have a 5-year-old kid, and I have also my sister who has 2 kids, so we are really scared and don't know what will happen here.
UN agencies say if the conflict drags on, as many as 5 million could flee.
There are no winners in war, but countless lives will be torn apart.
They're trying to get away from scenes like this. Damaged homes and subway stations turned into bomb shelters. A few, like veteran Dmytro Dovzhenko, are crossing the other way, re-enlisting in the Ukrainian military. I hope I will be back, he says, and I hope Russia will be destroyed. But for those driven from their homes, no one knows how long they'll be away or what they'll come back to.
If you have difficulty focusing or feel inattentive, Redbox RX can help. You can get quick online telehealth.
President Biden had a phone conversation today with Ukraine's president, lasting more than 30 minutes as enemy forces move closer to that country's capital city. Ukrainian officials are calling on the United States and NATO allies to make tougher actions against Russia. A senior U.S. defense official says Russian forces have been slowed by a resistant Ukrainian military bolstered by citizen volunteers. But new satellite images show a large deployment of Russian ground troops and helicopters in Belarus, near Ukraine's borders. Today, NATO said it is activating its response force, marking the first time it will be used for collective security. And thousands more U.S. and allied troops are making their way to the eastern flank.
There is no doubt about NATO's readiness to protect and defend all allies.
There's also mounting pressure to cut off Russia from the international banking system known as SWIFT, with the U.S. and France already signaling their support. The United Nations Security Council met today to vote on a resolution formally condemning Russia's attack on Ukraine.
Chinese state TV. China is urging Russia and Ukraine to negotiate. Hard to tell exactly how hard they're pressing on some resolution to this. Do you have a sense of how closely aligned Russia and China really are versus just a marriage of convenience?
So they've been converging in lots of ways that would have surprised observers 5 or 10 years ago, because there are so many reasons why you expect natural tensions to crop up between these two countries. We're marking 50 years this week since President Nixon's visit to China, the opening in China, which really marked the divergence of the Soviet Union and China after a period in which they had been much more aligned. So you do have a lot of those natural geographic and economic tensions there. But at the same time, there is, as you say, a real marriage of convenience, a shared interest in disrupting the U.S.-led order and undermining U.S. alliances and really kind of changing the way the international system works. So as long as the two see common objectives in that regard, you'll expect them to work together. But we also really see a lot of, I think, anxiety in Beijing about what this means. They don't want to create this norm of territorial sovereignty being violated. They talk about sovereignty all the time, and this cuts against it. They don't want to live in a world in which they're in a kind of economically isolated bloc with only allies like Russia and North Korea and Iran. So this is I think has been much more complicated than the narrative of a kind of easy win for the Chinese, which would suggest.
It's okay that we're here.
It's okay that you're here.
It's good. I'm not parked illegally.
You're parked very illegally. Get the feelings of watching Star Wars on Disney Plus.
With Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, and more, you'll get the feeling too, only on Disney Plus.
Following a telephone conversation President Biden held with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and in alignment with the decision by our European allies, the United States will join them in sanctioning President Putin and Foreign Minister Lavrov and members of the Russian National Security Team. Well, it has been under consideration and on the table for some time, as you know, and as I just conveyed, the President's strong view and strong principle from the beginning of this conflict, and even before, I should say, has been to take actions and steps in alignment with our European partners, and this is certainly evidence of that. Certainly the this step that we are doing in alignment and in coordination with the Europeans just sends a clear message about the strength of the opposition to the actions by President Putin and the direction in his leadership of the Russian military. You know, I would say our message to the Ukrainian people continues to be that we stand with you, we support you, we are going to do everything, humanitarian assistance, economic assistance, continue to provide security assistance, and rally the world to condemn the actions of President Putin.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like...
Security officials on alert for possible Russian cyber attacks, not just in Europe, but here in the U.S.
This country, taken as a whole, is not ready for a massive cyber attack.
Former Trump administration Homeland Security advisor Tom Bossert points to last summer when ransomware hackers believed to be affiliated with Russia shut down the Colonial gas pipeline running from Houston to New York by hitting the company's billing system, not its industrial controls.
Most businesses in this country are very vulnerable despite all of the good work being done by the federal government. The federal government's not protecting directly their networks.
Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Mark Warner warns Putin has not yet unleashed Russia's full cyber capabilities.
If the Russians launch a more massive cyber attack and, for example, try to shut down all the power in Ukraine, you can't control once you unleash cyber weapons, malware, by geographic locations. That kind of incursion could move us into what could be potentially viewed as a Article 5 attack against Poland. That, by definition, means if you attack one NATO nation, you attack all of them.
But would a cyber attack, which could easily extend across borders into NATO countries, drag the U.S. into war by triggering Article 5?
That, again, is up to the NATO alliance to determine, but obviously a cyber attack does constitute an attack, so that would certainly be a point of discussion among the NATO members.
Whether it would actually cause a reaction, it would likely be a response in the cyber arena.
In the meantime, the Homeland Security Department is urging American companies and local governments to act now to secure their networks. Derek Dennis, ABC News.
Shalom, give all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahshua Bashem Rakakadash. God honors to the elders and apostles for the edification and knowledge. And to Wadi Yahweh Shem Yahshua for putting the spirit of the elders and apostles so we can know this truth and knowledge. Call holy Yahweh Shem Yahshua Bashem Rakakadash. Give all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahshua Bashem Rakakadash. That was a few videos relating to ABC News, WHAS, Bloomberg Markets, WTVR, CBS 6, WTVR 6, CBS San Diego, CBS New York, just a few relating to talking about the Russian-Ukraine situation, talk about potential cyber attacks, NATO's response by NATO and alternatives relating to sanctions and different things. Get some scriptures. And Shalakia for the background, the blaring and the, it's bright out here, Shalakia for that, excuse me. This Proverbs 24, go to there. This Proverbs 24 and 2. For their heart studieth destruction, their lips talk of mischief. So their heart study destruction, man. So they have schemes that they want to do. They have plans and study how they want to implement regarding certain affairs, man. So their heart, which is their mind. So their mind is always constantly how they're going to implement certain things. That's not always going to be beneficial, man. That's going to be involved. And their lips talk of mischief, which is deceit, man. And it's the wicked, because their heart study destruction, and they have counsel on how to implement it in ways, in different formats, how they want to do it, man. 24 and 8. He that deviseth to do evil is called a mischievous man. That's the wicked. So him studying to do destruction, he's going to ultimately study and devise it. He's going to his goal is to implement it, man. So he would be what you would call a mischievous person, man. Somebody is very nefarious in his ways, man. So he that deviseth to do evil shall be called a mischievous person. So it's mischievous, man. Let's look up mischievous real quick. And mischievous is basically something that's with ill intent, man. Such as what's going on now, what the affairs going on now. Mischievous. Misbehaving, bad, malicious, malevolent, hostile, spiteful, bitter. So yes, that's the characteristics that the evil, ill-natured, evil, baleful, vindictive, vengeful, vitriol, rancorous, malign, pernicious, having a harmful effect, especially in a gradual or subtle way. So yeah, it's going to have, the outcome of it is going to be very harmful, man. Whether gradually or it's going to be quickly, man. But it's in a subtle way. So it's methodical and it's very calculating, but very what's the word I want? In a sneaky manner, man. And that's the wicked. That's how the wicked employs, man. Let's go to Psalms 10 and 2. The wicked in their pride doth persecute the poor. In their pride persecute the poor. That's the righteous. Let them be taken in the devices they have imagined, because they have devised imagined devices to take the poor. But it's ultimately the same devices they're going to use to take the poor. They're going to be caught in those devices that they have set up, man. So it's going to backfire on them, man. The scripture says they study what? Destruction, man. They study destruction, how to devise. After they study it, they're going to figure out how they're going to devise it and implement it with a malintent, man. And that's the characteristics of the wicked, man. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, that's his mind, blesseth the covetous whom the Lord abhorreth. So the wicked is very prideful. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, which is apparent, will not seek after God, because God is not in all his for God is not in all his thoughts. No, because he's the wicked, man. His characteristic is to be wicked, man. He is wicked, you know. So of course the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahshua is not going to be in his thoughts, man, because he goes contrary to Yahweh Shem Yahshua. He's unrighteous, he's wicked. Let's get another one. I'm not going to make this too long. Just a couple scriptures. Psalms 58 and 2, ye in your heart, ye work wickedness. That's the wicked, and weigh the violence of your hands on the earth. The earth has been given to the hands of the wicked, man. And the hands of the wicked is their sword. And through the sword is their blessing. But through the sword they have shed and done certain things, man, historically, man. They have gained the fatness of the earth, and they gain fatness of the earth and pretty much shed much blood, man. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies, man. So from the beginning, from the get-go, they were designed and set to be in a certain manner, man. Their poison is like a poison of a serpent, which is deadly venomous. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ear. Which will not hearken to the voice of the charmers, charming so wisely. One more scripture. Okay, let's go to Job 5. Let's try to find Job 5 and 5th chapter. I'll end it on this. Shalakia. This is 5 and 12. He disappointed the devices of the crafty, which is the wicked, so their hands cannot perform their enterprise. The enterprise is there, what they want to do, their endeavors. Because in their hands is what? The sword, man. He taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the froward headlong is carried headlong. They meet in darkness in the daytime, and grope in noonday as in night. But he saved the poor from the sword, from the mouth, and from their mouth, and from the hand of the mighty, which is the wicked. This is just something short, real quick. I'll give all praise Yahweh Bashim Yashal Bashim Rakakadash. Hope it helps. Shalom. His brother Zayab. Shalom.